You guys have a good lunch?
I love having the slot right after lunch.
Right after lunch, as long as
perfect.
everyone's sufficiently caffeinated. Hopefully the last 30 minutes is all been coffee. Dan, we have 3 things to talk about today.
That's right. So what's number one? Number one, Dart for Web is here to embrace the web rather than replace the web.
Right, despite all the rumors.
Yeah.
The second thing is we have an amazing tooling story that we think will make you amazingly productive. And 3,
We have a great framework story. So it'll make you even more productive.
Yes, so let's dig in.
We
The
just
3
said
things.
that. Yes.
That's perfect. Okay, you guys are already with us? All right.
Yes.
So let's talk about, we have this set of 3 things going on. So we have 3 things around embracing the web. One is it's JavaScript all the time. The second is embracing great canonical JavaScript and having a great interop story. So Dan, tell us about JavaScript.
Let's talk a little bit about how we got here. You guys may have heard that we had a slight change in direction in the last couple of months, right? We'd been pushing hard to put the VM in Chrome, and while we were doing that, we actually noticed that a lot of stuff had changed on the web. So JavaScript engines had been getting faster. There were all kinds of neat features going into things like ES6. And so we sat back and we really rethought what the approach we were taking was. And we decided that rather than targeting the VM in Chrome, we were going to target essentially all the world's modern browsers. And actually, they're all amazingly good. Things have gotten so much better since we started the project. So
Right.
Go ahead.
So I think, besides being the voice of God, wow, that's amazing. Talk about speaking with authority right now. So you're right, it's 2 things. One is this is the notion that, for web apps, we realized that the cost of having the VM in Chrome meant a lot of things. Our users would have to deploy 2 sets of code, Dart and JavaScript. You have to worry about interop stories, and it meant that our Dart story for the broad set of browsers, which most people would have to target anyway, made a whole set of things complicated. And so we realized it's a great simplifying assumption for what the Dart team provides and for our customers provide, and it lets us do a lot of great things that we're excited to talk about.
Yeah, and it was also something. Whoa! It was also something that kind of scared our users when they realized that their development path and their deployment paths were so divergent. It left them without the degree of confidence that we wanted to give them.
Right, and it lets us do cool things. For instance, we'll still support this notion of a tree-shaken, globally analyzed, globally inferred output, so you can get one small output file. But we're also going to add the option for you to generate canonical JavaScript. So the idea is one Dart library will produce one JavaScript file. That output JavaScript will be readable. It'll be debuggable, like basically a one-to-one correspondence, and it'll enable really fast compilation. Because each library will have a canonical output and will not require us to do global inference, that means if you change a library, we don't have to recompile your whole app. We only need to recompile the bits that you changed.
Yeah, so we're talking about sub-second recompilation.
Right, and we can leverage things hopefully like multi-cores and other things. So again, for the deployment, you probably still want to have a large, globally inferred, tree-shaken output. But during development, we're hoping that we can give you a much faster turnaround for your code and give you a much better debugging story. Because obviously, just working on Chrome is not enough. We all care about supporting multiple browsers and making sure that Dart works across all those experiences. As an example.
Yeah, so let's talk about the dev compiler, which is our current internal working name that we're using for this kind of lightweight JavaScript compilation. This code may look familiar to some of you. This is the world's best sample program. It's from Sunflower, which I know we know and love on the Dart team. It's a sample that we've shipped for an awfully long time.
So it's canonical Dart, and actually we've made this sample a little bit more complicated than we ship with the editor. So we actually use mixins here. You see we're using cascades, canonical Dart code. And this is the exact same output with our new dev compiler.
It looks very similar, actually.
So there's a few things. One is because we're targeting development time for our dev compiler, this means we can actually assume things like the latest ES6 features. So what we're targeting is basically things that are not behind flags in Chrome as our output model, so that you end up with really, we use things like class and extends that exist in ES6. And this is very debuggable JavaScript.
Yeah, one way to think about this is that the competition for dev compiler today is Dartium. And so right now, everyone does their web development from using Dart in Dartium, so that has the latest Chrome features. And we're really imagining that people who are using the dev compiler would just develop with tip of Chrome and use the unflagged features there.
Right. So our plan in the short term is we'll continue to ship Dartium and support it. We know it's critical for you folks. And our goal is on the side, really ramping this up, which means we'll have a great development story and debugging story in JavaScript. And our goal is to hit the same refresh cycle, the same productivity you have currently in Dartium, but in a completely 100% JavaScript model.
Yeah, we will not rest until we're at sub-second refresh with dev compiler.
And there's people here working on dev compiler now.
Yeah,
You guys wanna raise your hands?
did VJ actually sit down? No, so. So
He's a technical lead. We have a number of other folks working on the dev compiler here. And again, this is kind of our proving ground, and we hope to roll most of these features into Dart-to-JS. So we'll still have a single toolchain model eventually. Right now, we have a separate project basically to make things efficient. But we can do other things besides just generate beautiful JavaScript, right?
Yeah, I noticed when we sat down for the Birds of a Feather session that there were a vast number of questions about JS interop. I also noticed that on the moderator page, there were a ton of questions about JS interop.
It's like people care about using existing JavaScript code for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't kidding. Someone asked at the BOF session like how you move a project piecemeal from Dart to JavaScript. And I said, well, the old style approach was that we told you, step one was rm-rf, and then you could start typing your Dart project. And we found that was actually a kind of large barrier to entry.
Right. And so our idea is basically this. And what's great is, Google has actually been on the forefront of typed JavaScript for a long time. Actually, my gateway drug to Dart was the closure compiler set of tools, 5 years ago. And so we have a great set of typed interfaces to existing JavaScript libraries through the closure tools. And obviously TypeScript and definitely typed.org has done a bunch of work additionally to add typed interfaces to existing JavaScript tools. So our goal here, again, this is nothing to show you today, but I think Jacob will hint to some of these things later tonight, is that you can go from one of these typed interfaces, actually create a stub library that looks and feels like Dart code that the analyzer will work against. You get completion and errors and warnings, and then use that and actually generate Dart code that interrupts very cleanly with JavaScript.
Exactly. And then we have a longer-term goal, which is we also want to be able to take a nice annotated Dart library and export it in a good, usable way as a JS library. So the goal here is that we want to enable component vendors who are building stuff in Dart to be able to ship those components as nice, readable JavaScript without a ton of libraries so that they can actually vend them out to people, whether those consumers are using Dart or JavaScript. So we think that will open the market significantly for people building components in Dart.
And what's great is we can be super smart about how we generate that JavaScript. So things like documentation tools for JavaScript and things, we can generate the right JavaScript so that documentation just works. Your customers shouldn't have to know that you wrote your component in Dart, except that they want to have the great development experience that you had.
Yeah, so funnily enough, someone was asking me this morning about D3 versus charted. I see Fairhot back there. It wasn't him, but it wouldn't surprise me if he would ask me about this. And what you can see on the upper left here is a use of D3 in JavaScript. And it looks sort of OK. And if you were using the current Dart.js interop package, you would see a vast amount of boilerplate. But what you can see on the lower right is work that Jacob Richmond, where is he? Is he here? No, he's not even here.
He's out working on his lightning talk right now.
Exactly. But it's work that he did recently on JavaScript interop. And the funny thing is that actually the Dart code on the lower right calling into JavaScript, heck, it looks nicer than the JavaScript code does. So,
in our completely unbiased opinion,
it actually does look. I saw one guy here nodding his head. So it does look nicer. And the good thing is that this will give you, a really nice experience with all the Dart tools. So we think we can do this with very, very low or minimal overhead and make it look nice.
So let's embrace the web. JavaScript everywhere, great canonical JavaScript for debugging, and a great story for interop, both JavaScript into Dart and Dart into a JavaScript world.
Yeah, but we can actually do better than that, right?
I think so. So, one of the biggest things we pushed with Dart from the beginning, not only performance, but having a great tooling story. And so we think we have some great new things to show you here and to show you some of the directions we're going. The first is analysis. So obviously anyone doing Dart realizes the benefit of having a full IDE experience, hints, warnings, refactorings. We've done a bunch of work over the last year to migrate all that to Dart so that you can use it from Sublime or Eclipse or IntelliJ as we discussed. But we go beyond that, right? What's great is we're actually in the process of doing work now to support pluggability into our analysis. So no longer will we ship, for instance, the Angular plugin as a deep part of our Dart release. It'll actually be a plugin that ships as part of the Angular project. And so as Angular evolves, they can evolve their plugin and plug in hints, warnings, refactorings across JavaScript, HTML. So you should be able to right-click in HTML and go to definition in Dart. We think it'll be a really smooth story.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things that we came to realize as part of this embracing the web is that there are a ton of other assets out there that the Dart team is never going to have time to figure out how to analyze, right? We're going to have Angular and we're going to have we're going to have JavaScript and TypeScript and things like that that we really want to be able to plug into. And so this gives us a nice framework for doing that and lets packages essentially extend the analyzer.
So we have people on our tooling team here today. Raise your hands. Who's working on analysis? Back in the back corner. We'd love to talk to you more about that. We've done a bunch of refactoring even over the last week to really kick this off. And we're looking forward to shipping this and the start of some of these things very soon. But wait, there's more.
Yeah, so we talked, Lars and Casper talked this morning about IntelliJ and WebStorm, and you can see the IntelliJ booth in the back. This is really the best of breed for developing applications on the web today. And so we're in the process of sunsetting the Dart editor, and IntelliJ is really a first-class way of building web applications, and will be fantastic. It already has awesome support, as for instance, Martin could tell you from the Angular team. They have awesome support for a wide variety of different web assets, and so we can plug into that, and we can use the Dart analyzer there, and it'll be a really good fit.
And what's great is you don't want us working on Git integration for the editor, right? We have other smart people doing that work, and so we can leverage that work. What's great is I actually went through this where I was editing a YAML file, and I didn't have a YAML plugin. It's like a little pop-up comes, do you want to install the YAML plugin? And I clicked, and I restarted, and now IntelliJ supports YAML. So we think it's a great place to bet our future here. And again, the way we're building on top of it means that the underlying infrastructure around the plugins for things like Angular or the DDC, those are all at the Dart level. So regardless if you're in Sublime or IntelliJ or Eclipse, you'll still get all those features.
That's right.
And we'll do a demo of this in just a second. But first, what's a tooling story without great testing? Unit test has kind of been the package for testing in the Dart ecosystem for a very long time. Most of the other tools that exist have ended up building on unit test. We realized it got very little love. They kind of got it working, and then once it was kind of working, it really wasn't touched.
Years ago, it got to the working state.
So I gave Natalie a challenge at the end of last year, beginning of this year, to see if she could do something spectacular in a quarter, and she's really delivered. So starting with 0.12, which will be coming out very soon, unit test is going away. Now it's just test. The test package will be the future of testing in Dart. And so instead of talking about it, I'll show you a quick demo. So first we'll come into IntelliJ. I have the test package open here. I can do things like scale the font size. And the analyzer kicks in wonderfully. And do Command 7 to see the structure of my app. So you can see that the API is very similar to what you're already used to. You have setup, tear down, test, and group. The key verbs you've already used in testing are already there. It's actually tough. I want to go back and show both, And obviously on the IntelliJ side, I can do things like Command B to go to the definition of map, and I can go read the map definition. So it's really easy to figure things out. I can say who uses linked map directly and go find usages and get a very quick dump out of all the usages. So the IDE experience is really great. And the great thing about the test package that we're working on is that it's actually designed for toolability. So we don't quite have a story yet around IntelliJ, but because it's designed to actually have a runner and a reporter and have these things be pluggable, we actually hope that integration with things like IntelliJ will be forthcoming. But one of the great things is an amazing experience for running tests across platforms. So let's run a subset of tests from the test package. So I'll just do pub run test. I'll go into the test directory. You'll see there's a number of tests here I could run. Let's just run all the tests in that directory. And so you see we're using the pub run command, and I can get an output of all the tests that I'm getting run. It actually supports parallelization, so it basically decides half the cores in your machine. So if I say I wanted to run -j pub run test, I think I can go -j8 and run across all of my cores when it runs those tests. It'll fan out and do things really fast. But it also has platform support. So not only do I run on the VM, but let's say I run on Content Shell, or maybe Dartium. So 62 tests before. Uh-oh. I did something wrong. Pub run test. Oh, the demo gods. Here we go.
You can see in the background there.
So if you watch very quickly, you should have seen Dartium pop up. But even better, I actually can pass in other browsers on my machine. This is where I get scared. I can do Chrome, Firefox, Safari. And this will actually do the work to spin up the compilation, compile those tests only once. So it'll compile the test once and run across Safari, Firefox, Chrome, i.e. if we were on Windows. So it's going to compile all those tests up, and then spin those across all those browsers and Content Shell and the VM. You can actually specify in a test and say this test should only run in browsers or only run in the VM or only run in Internet Explorer, for instance. It's a really compelling model. And the thing we're most excited about with the test runner is the idea that it's pluggable. So you will be able to write your own reporters here to give more detailed output. We talked to someone yesterday about wanting to export, I think, XUnit as a format. That'll be very easy. If you wanted to have a web-based runner, something similar to Karma, all those things will be supportable. So we're doing a lot of work kind of in the core infrastructure, the test runner, to make sure we nail kind of the core infrastructure. And once that's nailed down, we're looking to expand this out. We're already talking to folks that are doing things like Genus, what's the other one? WebDriver, and a bunch of other things. So I won't wait for all these tests to finish. You can see we're running across a number of browsers. It works really great. Yes. Testing's exciting. So find Natalie. She's here today and tomorrow, too, if you have questions about that. So it's a tooling story.
Yeah, so...
And finally...
And wait, there's more. Frameworks.
We hear people care about frameworks. I personally like to write all of my code by hand, just using DOM elements.
Yeah, I think the other part of this is that we've managed to confuse people a great deal over the past few years as we've experimented with the framework story and tried to come up with a good plan.
Because Angular is a great story, Polymer is a great story. We try to be clear about kind of where to start, and we've been back and forth over the last year. What we're excited about today is to say we kind of have a more clear path we can really talk to you. So first, it is kind of the elephant in the room, right? Angular's just taking off like crazy.
Yeah, and not just externally. Internally, like for instance, all of Google's ads teams, which is like they kind of matter to the company. They're adopting Angular across the board.
And so despite the confusion, we're actually excited that the Angular 2 story is meant to kind of eliminate a lot of confusion. So in Angular 1, we had AngularJS, which was a separate project from Angular Dart. They didn't have consistent APIs that overlapped. They kind of iterated the different models.
Yeah, and that would have made it really hard to do things like share components between them, which we certainly want to be able to do with our new interop story.
Or share documentation.
Yeah.
And so despite some of the rumors and things, Angular 2 is designed from the ground up to be a first-class experience in both JavaScript and Dart from day one. So it's a much cleaner story. And actually today, we've been honored enough to announce that Angular is now in dev preview. So the version number doesn't really hint at it. It's alpha.21, which is such an exciting thing. Someone said, let's do dev preview as a thing. I'm like, no, you'll break semantic versioning, and then you can't release a beta, and there's a whole discussion about it. So it is alpha.21, but we are considering this the dev preview.
Not just us. The Angular team considers it a dev preview. So.
Actually, even more importantly, they consider it the dev preview. It's easy for us to get up here and,
I mean, what the dev preview means is that this is the point at which the first really large-scale project at Google is starting to move from Angular 1 to Angular 2. So this is actually a pretty important milestone for the Angular team, and we're really excited about it.
And so, before you're used to having, I think there's AngularJS.org and AngularDart.org. The truth is going to be Angular.io. And if you go there and click around docs, you'll see a drop-down. And you can drop down from JavaScript to Dart, and you'll see the same documentation and examples in either language. So they're really trying to offer a great story there from day one. And obviously, Angular 2 is a package on our pub site, so you can go play with it now. And then we have folks in the room right now. We have Tim, who's been doing a lot of work on Angular. And Yegor's here as well, I think.
Right there, yeah.
Who actually works on the Angular team. So
and
find this
Martin,
guy. Oh, and Martin as well. This is great. So we're super excited to represent Angular here and announce the dev preview. And we think it's going to be a great story for folks doing a full application framework for Dart.
Yep.
But what about Polymer, Dan?
Well, I mean, we've done a ton of work on Polymer. And Polymer is actually making a lot of progress, especially as a way of producing custom elements.
Right. I think we started talking about this last year a lot. We have a few folks on our team. Jake's here. Where's Jake? Way in the back there, Jake.
Yes.
So, and you might have noticed, the big 0.5 release last year at I/O came out, and then things have been kind of quiet. And they really did this big reset in the Polymer world with a real big focus on modularity, on kind of pay for play, and on making sure performance is spectacular.
Exactly. So we're going to keep following Polymer, but one of the things that we've realized is that following a fast-moving project fast is not necessarily the most productive approach for anyone. I mean, we can definitely do this, but it's not really what we want to do. So what we're doing right now is we're kind of waiting for Polymer to reach a point of stability. And I heard from one of the Polymer team members at lunch that it's fairly stable right now, so perhaps we're actually getting close. But as it stabilizes, then we will be catching Polymer Dart up with Polymer JS. And of course, one of the nice things is that since it's really produced in custom elements and Angular 2 is built from the ground up to support that, there should be nice interoperability between these two frameworks.
And more importantly, and this is some of the work that Jake has been doing, is that we've kind of refactored the Polymer package into several things. One of those is a web component package. And the idea is that any web component written in JavaScript, even if you're using Mozilla's web component framework, we have a model for how you can consume those in a Dart application. So we really want that notion of kind of the mobility and the modularity of web components, regardless if they're written in Dart or JavaScript, to play really nice in your application. So that's a focus. It's actually been really good that Polymer slowed down a little bit or gone off, because it's given us a chance to really clean up our package story and hopefully give you a really functional story.
Yeah, but this isn't necessarily like, we don't want this to feel like the whole cathedral bazaar question. As we get JavaScript interop working and working really nicely, guess what? We want you to be able to bring your own JavaScript library. So we don't want to have you waiting for us to tell you what frameworks are available in Dart. We want you to be able to make really good use of JavaScript libraries that are out there without even telling us about it.
And the great thing is, if they already have typed interfaces, again, enclosure compiler or TypeScript, your Dart experience should be something close to native when you're using our tools. But even better than this wonderful 6-letter. This
Exactly,
is this my version or you? Did you come up with this? YOLO.
I came up with that.
This is the new
awesome.
YOLO.
Like,
It's too big for a license plate, unfortunately.
I don't know. California, you might be able to get away
You might
with
be able
this.
to pull it off. But obviously the goal we're getting to, and this is stuff we're just starting to work on, but obviously as the dev compiler and other things come along, this is really a place we want to go. Whereas you should be able to annotate your Dart code and say, I want to ship this Dart code as a JavaScript library. And again, your customers or people that consume that library don't need to know that it's from Dart, other than that it has really high quality and few bugs.
Yeah, exactly. Other than it's better.
Right, other than it's better.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
So that's our great framework story. Angular is a great end-to-end framework for building large applications with things like dependency injection and routing. We're tracking Polymer tightly to make sure that once they're 1.0, we can ramp up and support Polymer folks really well. And obviously, since everything's built on web components, we think those things will interop really well. And keep an eye on us for our JS interop story. We think that'll be really powerful.
Yep. Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff that we want you to do today. First of all, we really do want you to start using WebStorm and IntelliJ. We think that that's going to be a great story for web development in Dart.
And I've been using it every day now, and people on our team have, and we really like it. File issues, let us know if you have problems. We think it's going to be really great. The test package, at least is in RC today. So if you go to the pub site and just type in test, we want you to start playing with it. If you have our code already using unit test, make sure that you opt into it intelligently as you migrate. But you'll see that the features work great, and it's all on pub, or all on GitHub, excuse me. So we want your bug fixes and any issues you find.
Yep.
And then obviously Angular 2, you can play with that today as well. And with alpha.21, we're now in a dev preview.
Yeah, today's a great day to use it because you can go bug Yegor if it doesn't work. So it'll be perfect. And then there's a bunch of stuff that's coming soon. So the pluggable analyzer, tons of CLs have been going in to make this work recently. JS Interop similar. I guess all this stuff is red hot. Like pluggable analyzer is red hot. JS Interop is definitely red hot. Lots of changes have been coming in lately. And dev compiler is absolutely like blazing hot. There's a ton of stuff happening there.
You can track that project on GitHub. It's under dev compiler on the Dartlang org.
Yeah.
And you can see some of the output that's coming from there. And Jacob will have a talk this evening to talk more about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
You guys have about 5 minutes for questions, if you want to do questions.
That's perfect.
Right in front.
Just a real quick question. When we have comments or feedback on using WebStorm, do you want us to file those through JetBrains, or do you have a specific place where we want those to go?
Close enough that I can just give you the mic.
When we have issues with WebStorm, where would you like us to file those? Just straight through JetBrains, or do you have a different place?
Yeah, in general, they should go into the JetBrains
and they'll feed it
bug
through
tracker.
from there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
Great, thank you.
And then sometimes those end up being issues with our analyzer, for instance.
Yeah.
And we're good about shuffling those around.
Yep.
Make sure you tag it. There's actually a way to tag, and you can tag it as a Dart issue if you can, and that helps us find them.
Yep.
Thank you. Just tag the Dart.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Anyone else? Oh, you're close too.
Oh, that's awesome.
So with all the JS intra work that's going to happen, would it be possible, or I don't know if it's already possible or not, but would it be possible to use something like an NPM module in a Dart application?
We've definitely talked about it. It's not high on the list right now, but that's not the first time that question has been asked.
I love that question.
Maybe you were the first person to ask it.
So the interesting thing with NPM is that we have an interop story around the DOM right now. But Dart.io and our VM story, we have our own set of I/O primitives, and we don't have support for how you compile all of that into things that are analogous in NPM. In theory, if we did, clever thing, actually, I've done this with a number of benchmarks where if all you do is print in a benchmark, I've been able to Dart-to-JS out and run Node on my console.
Dart-to-JS has always supported producing Node-compatible output, so it's really a bindings question.
So if you write Dart code that bound to existing Node APIs, FS or whatever else, those will just work.
This would be an awesome community project.
Although seeing observatory and things, I might push you more to look at the Dart VM story. We think it's pretty solid, but we want to be able to go either place.
Yep.
Anyone else? Preferably someone in the first couple of rows, but farther back is fine too.
And what's great actually is Steven's up next, and he's going to talk a lot about the Dart-to-JS, actually getting really deep on Dart-to-JS and the interesting.
Don't do too much intro now because he's not setting up his stuff yet. And you're
no, I'm building him up.
But it is going to be very interesting.
Right. So thanks for your time. Find us later tonight, and